Well, hey, everybody, welcome to another JLTY Plus. I'm your host, Kira Davis. You're, of course, listening to Just Listen to Yourself with Kira Davis here on the FCB Radio Network. And a lot of you know that I have taken on the monumental task of running for my school board. And I also have the privilege, though, of having a political mentor, somebody who has done this before, somebody who knows what she's doing, kind of. We'll find out. I'm really happy to introduce my good friend, Roxanne Hoge. Roxanne is an immigrant mother of four, a union actress, and a small business owner. And she's called LA home for over 3 decades. And she says, I cannot imagine living anywhere other than Los Angeles. When LA's children and businesses were sacrificed over the past 2 years, while vulnerable seniors and our homeless population were ignored, and all of us felt the rise in crime, we all looked to the Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors and found them completely lacking. And so Roxanne, who started her acting career playing Whitley's cousin on A Different World, is now running for LA County Board of Supervisors. Roxanne Hoge, welcome to Just Listen to Yourself.
Thank you for having me, Kira. And I don't know if I know what I'm doing, but I've done it once before. So that makes me sort of, in the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. That's me.
What did you run for before this position?
So I ran for state assembly, which is something that also people don't pay attention to, right? People all get really excited about president, and they sort of get excited about governor, and then senator, and then and Congress. And then the rest of the offices, actually a large number of people, they drop off the ballot, right? So they vote the top 2-3 things, and there's 20 more things and they ignore them. So I ran for one of those ignored offices, California Assembly, because no one else was running at the time. And I don't like coronations now that I'm not a British subject. And then this office, no one knows about, and they have the most power of really any elected body in the States.
Let's talk about it, because you and I, earlier on this day that we're recording, you and I actually we appeared on Jesse Kelly's show on the 1st. I'm right. And Jesse mistakenly identified that you were running for school board. You are running for a board, but this is a position. I'm going to be honest with you. The only reason I know this position exists is because of what I do for my work. Otherwise, what they do is completely out of the public's eye. I still am not totally clear on what the LA Board of Supervisors does, Roxanne, but can you explain to my listeners, and keep in mind that I have listeners from all over the country. So explain to them what the LA County Board of Supervisors is and why it's such a powerful board.
Well, so every county has a county board of supervisors. Most of them do. There's over 3,200 counties in America. And like sort of mayors or governor, depending on your state and your locale, an executive or a board can be more or less powerful, right? So some mayors are mainly ceremonial. They do parades or whatever. They don't hire and fire people. The LA County Board of Supervisors, in addition to being, LA being the most populous county in the United States, so it's 10 million people being run and controlled by 5 people who happen to all be women. I call them the cast of The View, because there's one sane one and then 4 just like, woo. They are legislative, executive, and quasi-judicial in nature. So by being in charge of the budget for the sheriff of Los Angeles County, who is an elected official in his own right, they're defunding our police on their own. Nobody knows their names. They are in charge of LA County Public Health, which is how all the moms and dads who I've been working with to try and get ridiculous masks requirements and vaccine requirements off our kids, they're the ones who enabled that to happen. So they wield unbelievable power, and not enough people know their names or what they do, and certainly they don't vote for them in large enough numbers.
Well, how do these people keep winning? Is it because they fly under the radar and then it's just not a big turnout for that position, or are there other kind of California shenanigans going on?
Well, so the shenanigans, the big shenanigan of all elections is the power of incumbency, right? That is a thumb on the scale that's unbelievable. And you're in a particularly good situation, as am I, which I learned being a first-time candidate. So running against an incumbent is Harmeet Dillon, who I love, who's this amazing warrior princess of legal warfare, was like, when I met her, she was like, oh, thank you so much for running. You know, we need people willing to sacrifice themselves, sort of like be the kamikaze pilots. And I was like, wait, what are you saying? Well, it turns out that like 90% of the vote. So it's an honorable thing to do, but it turns out it's a pretty, not quite insurmountable task, but it's a little bit quixotic, right? It can happen, but very rarely. So your opportunity and my opportunity is that the person who holds my seat, like yours, is retiring. Mine is retiring to spend more time with her lawyers, I feel, because there may be some legal issues coming down the pike. The sheriff has said that LA County's Board of Supervisors is one of the most, if not the most corrupt governing operation. Of course, LA City Council is coming up a close second, but they're pretty dirty.
Yeah. And so give us an example of some of the things, or even one of the things that pops into your mind that the LA Board of Supervisors, LA County Board of Supervisors has done, particularly recently, that would kind of make Americans go, what?
Wow, that is just, talk about being spoiled for choice. I'm sure everyone's seen, I mean, what's close to my heart, obviously, is what they've done to our children, which is insane. And they've elevated a woman who calls herself Dr. Barbara Ferrer, but that doctor title is an honorific. She's not a medical doctor, and yet they act as if they defer to her as if she's a medical doctor. That's just the icing on the cake. I think what would horrify most people is that while you're seeing all these videos come out of Los Angeles, the smash and grabs, the guy being dragged out of a car, the gun to the head of the people having chicken wings at a restaurant, while that is happening, and by the way, while the encampments are growing, and those are basically open air drug dens, it's not, people think, oh, homeless, like someone who lost their apartment, mom and a dad and their kid in a car. No, they are huge sort of chop shops for bikes that have been stolen, and drug dealing, and a little bit of sexual assault thrown in for fun, happening in tents that these non-governmental organizations give them with our $6 billion over 10 years. And the only way we have to fight back is through the sheriff's department. The sheriff has the power to clean up encampments. And what the LA County Board of Supervisors has done is said, let's elevate this PhD in social justice, Barbara Ferrer, and let this guy who's a sheriff and the law enforcement sworn defender of freedom and the Constitution, let's defund him. So they have frozen his budget. They have stopped him from the ability to hire and fire people. He calls it defund, defame, and defang. So they've frozen his budget. They've also said, you don't get to keep employees who are unvaccinated. Now, I don't know about you, Kara, but when I call 911 because someone is swinging a sledgehammer or an axe near my head while they're high on meth, I'm not particularly interested in the vaccine status of said officer. But LA County Board of Supervisors said, no, we are going to fire 4,000 of your 17,000, 12,000 person staff, which, by the way, is already woefully low for an area this big and this dense to have. For example, New York City has 4 police officers for every 1,000 residents. We have 0.9 sheriff's deputies for every 1,000 residents. So that's just a little smattering of what those ladies from The View think is the way that we should live. They don't live that way, by the way. They haven't been to work in 2 years. They are doing it by Zoom, and they're just living the good life.
Yeah, I mean, no, they really are living the good life. That's actually what was happening in my school district with our school board representative. She just flaked out. She just was like, great, we're doing Zoom from now on. Even when they went back, she never went back. So no one saw her. No one communicated with her. She never answered an email. She never returned a call. She cast a vote to keep masks on our kids and then promptly resigned before she could be held accountable for that vote. So yeah, I know exactly what it's like. It's like these people, we gave them too much power, which I know a lot of people were saying from the start, and we're all living that reality now. But I just want JLTY listeners to know what Roxanne just said. Everything that you complain about coming out of California, it really comes out of two places. Well, three: Sacramento, San Francisco, and Los Angeles. And what Roxanne is running for is the position, or one of the positions, that bring you all of this ridiculousness. It all filters out to you in other parts of the United States. And you think, oh, this is a California thing, but a lot of times it's not. It's a Los Angeles thing. California, geographically speaking, is red. Most, when you take the land mass, most people are conservative. We just have these really populous cities. But for me, Roxanne, I think it is absolutely astonishing how much power the board has. They have power over almost every aspect of Los Angeles life. How do they overrule, or what's their function with the city council? Do you know that? Like, how
So
do they function?
they're separate. So there's the city council has 4 million people that they're responsible for, but the county operation is over all 10 million. And by the way, they're both unbelievably corrupt. The amount of indictments, and sort of one former city council member is already in jail. They just tried to put someone else in who, I mean, it's unbelievable. And the horrible thing that I don't think people realize is, so Kira, you made the decision to live in a sane part of Southern California, right? Because California is great, but you live in a sane, clean part. I was here because I was like, LA acting, this is a dense city, this is awesome.
It was
It
awesome.
bleeds out to everywhere. There's no protection. And when I know you get this all the time, like, why don't y'all just leave? It's coming for you. Because guess what? When Sacramento passes some insane equity framework, we have to chant to an Aztec god, and 2 and 2 plus 5 equals 5 in some ethnicities. So who are we to judge? They're not going to make the people who print textbooks, they're printing one set of textbooks, and they're going to be California compliant. And so you're going to be in Utah, you're going to be in Arkansas, you're going to be in North Carolina or Tallahassee or wherever you are, feeling safe, and you are not safe.
Now, I say this to my listeners all the time. I mean, you can't tell people how to vote, and these people are coming your way anyway. They're moving. They're, like you say, they influence the institutions that you use where you live. I mean, 2 of the 3 most powerful people in our country are from California. I want everyone to picture this. Picture that Joe Biden finally keels over, and God forbid
or just needs a rest.
Right, just needs a rest, whichever happens first. And then God forbid we have Kamala Harris, who becomes, I know Roxanne is crossing herself right now. I know. I've never prayed so hard for Joe Biden in my life. But let's say that he keels over. Miss Harris becomes our our president. And then we get Gavin Newsom coming to Washington, D.C., which is fully his intention. Gavin Newsom steps into the vice president's office. Now we have 3 Californians basically running the executive branch. And yeah, Roxanne is like looking around lost, like, what do I hold on to? But this is, if we don't stop it here, it's coming your way. So it behooves you to support people like Roxanne, who are standing where she is and fighting, because she's trying to help you as much as she's trying to help herself. Because what we're doing, Roxanne, is exporting insanity.
Yeah, absolutely. And you here, I mean, the fact is, we're moms and we work, and so that sort of took up a lot of bandwidth. But I don't have that luxury anymore. As I said earlier today, if they had left me alone so that I could keep volunteering at my kid's school, lost that for 2 years, working as an actor, oops, not allowed to do that. Running my business, well, the pandemic has certainly, the lockdown certainly tried to destroy that. My kids are still in high school, but this temporary reprieve that they've given us of the crumbs of, okay, we'll let you breathe for now, it's all coming back. It's all being held in reserve in abeyance for the minute they want to. And by the way, we're going to declare a climate emergency. We're going to declare a racial emergency. We're going to declare whatever emergency that they see fit. Done. I'm done with the states of emergency. Either you can function or you can't function. I'm from a third world country, so I know mob rule and totalitarian takeovers when I see them.
Well, tell us a little bit about your journey. And when you say you're from a third world country, and also tell us, because you did touch on some stuff there, but I think listeners would be shocked to know just what you've gone through in the past couple of years, and tell us how those things drove you to take. This is a risk. This is a big risk, Roxanne, that you're taking. And this is a lot of work. So you must be really serious to want to take this on. So explain what's gone on with you, with your career. Why can't you volunteer at your kid's school? What's going on?
It's really, it's horrifying and not a little bit scary, because when the sheriff was talking about how corrupt this city council is, and there was, a security guy in the crowd, and he was like, let me know if you need backup. And I was like, what have I bitten off? This is serious. This is huge money. Those public sector unions, they're no longer sort of the union of Norma Ray, Silkwood, woohoo. It's thuggery. It is out and out bullying and thuggery. And so what we've lost is, and people don't realize that LA, even private schools in LA, because again, you think, oh, I know how to fix this problem, right? I know how to take care of my family. We'll go to a private religious school. They're coming for you, and they wouldn't allow private schools to be open. Let me say that again. People were paying for private schools. The private schools had mitigation strategies because, again, we live in Los Angeles. 360 days of the year, we can have class outside. And so everyone with a brain understood that outside was okay from the beginning. Of course, the other people who didn't have brains were all in charge of things like taking the sand out of putting sand in the skate parks and arresting surfers. But hey, the rest of us knew, right? Because we could read a chart. And so what was taken away, because and again, this is bizarre to me because I came to America, the land of freedom and personal autonomy, and certainly not a little bit of medical privacy. But hey, since everybody wants to know, I had COVID. So there's no need for me to get a vaccine. And in fact, there's some medical contraindication that it's not necessarily a smart idea to get vaccinated. I am a responsible person and also a total germaphobe and a little bit of a hypochondriac. So I wanted to be sure. And I have tested myself for antibodies more than once, in addition to T and B cell testing. I'm good. And yet that proof is worth nothing to school. We were not allowed to step on campus. I was not allowed to go to a volunteer event off campus in an outdoor setting. I'm not allowed to, when I audition, which is a job interview, right? I thought asking questions about your race, gender, sexuality, and ADA protected status was verboten, but apparently not. So the Screen Actors Guild has gone further than anyone else and is requiring boosters, and that you have to attest to same in order to work. Meanwhile, lots of above the line stars are not, or have fake vax cards. But I'm not willing, I will not live by lies, as Solzhenitsyn said. So I'm not willing to play that game. So I was shut out of movie theaters, haircuts, massages, taking my kids to a Denny's for a year. So that's all gone away. And why this matters to me and why I jumped in, even though it's horrifying and scary, is because when I was a little girl and saw what happens when a leader of a country says, you didn't build that and you should take stuff from the people who have stuff, people listen, they come get it. And because they took away all the guns in Jamaica, they came and got it with machetes. I think you guys say machete. And so to grow up as a little girl, hearing about who was recently raped and murdered of your, and robbed of your parents' friend group, it sticks with you. And in fact, I actually did a one-woman show sort of about my transition and my journey from there coming to America, which is the same, we use the same language, but it's not the same language. So it's two countries separated by common language. My very first day in American school. I was 11 years old and I tested into 7th grade, and I raised my hand because that's how and I said, does anybody have a rubber? Because that's what we call an eraser. Oh well, you learn, right? So I have this one woman show that's actually part of the Los Angeles Women's Theater Festival. I think it's airing on Saturday at 3. And it's about how I went from that. And what's really amazing is, sort of Jamaica doesn't have so much of a middle class. So I went from a life of anyone who grows up in Jamaica is totally privileged because it's beautiful, but real privilege and freedom of everything, to coming to this country with nothing. You were only allowed to take $50 a person and starting all over again, sort of at the bottom. And then in 2019, I got to drive in a presidential motorcade when the president was visiting Los Angeles. And it was a crazy, amazing journey to be standing next to the beast, which is what they call the limousine, with another friend of mine, Michelle, who's an immigrant girl from Peru. So that's what it's about. And because of that, I appreciate how quickly things can be lost. And I know you too, you're a Commonwealth girl. Like, we chose to go from subject to citizen, and you damn well better defend that, because it is a rare thing.
I don't think, I know, and I know that's why we're in this position, because I know that Americans take it for granted. We just assume, and we assume that everybody, this is why so many progressives are so just very liberal about open borders and immigration. They assume that every person from every other place feels the same way that we do about freedom, and feels the same way that we do about women, and feels the same that we do about equal rights. And it's not like that at all. This is a rarity, and it does need to be protected. And because so many of us got so comfortable, because this is a great country that offers so many luxuries, even to the poorest among us, so many opportunities. There are so many distractions, we were able.
But if you're raising a family or you have a business, like, you just don't have time. Like, there's no time. I get it.
That's the other thing. It's both, right? We've looked away. Like, even I, as a political pundit, have looked away from what's going on my local school boards. Oh, my neighbors are good people. They got it. It's fine. And it wasn't until everything was stripped away from us, particularly here in California, Roxanne, because we have so much distraction, right? We have the beautiful sun, we have beaches, we can be in the mountains in a couple of hours and skiing, and then we can go back to surfing if we have the energy to go. We have Hollywood, we have Silicon Valley, we have amazing sights and sounds and culture here. It's a gorgeous place, and people will put up with a lot to live here and do. But when we were told by our betters in office during the pandemic that we could no longer engage in those distractions, that was their big mistake, really, because we could have distracted ourselves with the surfing and the beaches, but the governor arrested people on the beach. And, then the police arrested kids trying to skate in the skate park outside. They overplayed their hand because they took away too much. If they had just been incremental about things, Roxanne, I don't think people like you and I would have been awoken enough. We would have been pissed for sure, but not maybe awoken enough to put our own butts on the line to run for office.
There's one more place they overplayed, though. That was, here's the silver lining. By putting all of school on Zoom, parents are like, wait, what? What did I just hear in your science class? What did I just hear in math class? Wait, what? Black people can't be expected to be on time or come up with the same answers to equations? Tell me I didn't hear that. And yet there it was.
Yeah. I know, for me, that was like, what are we doing? And even as I go around and talk to people, that's the one thing I hear parents saying, like, I just didn't know. And suddenly I was like, what is going And because the other thing that's happening here is because parents are more concerned now about what's going on in school. They're showing up to the school board meetings, and the school board meetings are still doing their regular business. And then you see the stuff that's going on at the school board meetings, and you're like, well, they're considering what? Like, we all went to school board meeting last week to see what they were going to do with this vacant position, if they were going to appoint someone until the election. And so of course they put that at the very end, which is like 10:30, 11 at night, because they know parents don't want to hang around. But what we got to see while we were waiting to speak were the books that they were considering pumping into our English lit program. And they were books that had for 8th and 9th grade kids that were very descriptive of rape and other types of like violent sexual assault and activity. Just books that were actually decent books, but for adults, like not for children. We wouldn't have seen that. Nobody even knew that was on the agenda. We wouldn't have seen that if we didn't show up to complain about this other thing. So let me ask you this, Roxanne, when you are out there campaigning, do you hear from people who are, I know it's not the same as a school board race, but are you hearing from people who are going, yeah, what I've seen in the last couple of years has been too much for me? Or is it in LA, is it sort of the typical, oh, well, it'll even itself out attitude that we've been plagued with for so many years?
No. I mean, here's the thing. It's overwhelmingly a blue county, right? It's not even close. It's like 18% Republican, and then the vast majority is Democrat, and then some decline to state voters. And it's a nonpartisan race for Board of Supervisors, but it's also really nonpartisan when you get mugged, or your neighbor gets killed, or you hear about a 24-year-old working in a furniture store, Brianna Kupfer, who gets killed, or a nurse who's trying to take the public transportation they'd like us all to take, and she's waiting and she gets killed. Sandra Schell. So people are definitely going, wait, what? And yeah, you're right. Those agendas are very illuminating, because now that a bunch of people have started looking at the LA County Board of Supervisors meetings, their agenda, I went to a meeting on Zoom 3 weeks ago. 13 of their agenda items were to approve new rewards leading to the capture of various murder suspects. Isn't that a sign that you should let the sheriff do his job? Wow. I mean, I kind of feel like if you're putting this much effort into, well, let's see if we can get a reward for this, maybe we should, talk about Kamala's root causes. Let's go to the root cause and not let them out of jail, and let the sheriff clean up our streets. Because that's the other thing that, so you're still in the beautiful part of Southern California.
Yeah.
You drive, and by the way, as someone says, we all live in $1 million shacks now, right? Like, even if you don't have it starts at $1 million, every house in LA. And I'm not in a depressed area, but I'm not in a very fancy area by any stretch of the imagination. There is garbage everywhere on the street. And for what they hoover up in taxes, what people pay in taxes, this street should be sparkling. LA should look like Orange County, but we don't.
Well, when what's happening is Orange County is looking more like LA.
Sorry.
So, yeah. And that's even when we moved here almost 13 years ago now, my husband and I laughed. We laughed at how clean it was. We laughed at how people didn't lock their doors. We thought it was cute when we would read the police blotters, and it was like, oh, this kid I smelled weed and I called the police, that was cute to us. We thought it was really funny. I used to get a big kick out of reading the blotters, but in the last 3 to 4 years here in Orange County, in a place where we have really been, this is a bubble where I live, and I live in this bubble of a suburb, and this place where we have really been protected from the rest of what's going on in California. It's become infected. Now we have, meth addicts who are making their way back into our suburbs, wandering around, and the police, you can call the sheriff now. In the suburbs, they're more responsive than they are in the city, but they'll come out and they'll tell you, we can't arrest this guy because we can't put him anywhere. He's not going to stay anywhere. Best we can do is move him for you. That's just shuffling the problem over to somebody else's suburb, and that's last year. A boy was out running, training for his cross country team, 15 years old, running across a pedestrian bridge, and a homeless woman high on meth came out of the bushes and tried to push him over the pedestrian bridge. Thank God his teammates were right behind him and they were able to restrain her. He almost went over that pedestrian bridge. That is what we're looking at in the suburb, in what Roxanne is describing as the quiet, beautiful suburbs. That's still nice. It's becoming less and less so. LA is really moving out here. So if you think, okay, wow, it's coming to Kira in Orange County, it's going to move beyond Orange County. Like there's no further south for it to go, really. So it's going to have to move east. That's y'all. That's the rest of y'all.
Yeah. No, it's really, it's quite sick and shameful. And I ask people all the time when I see sort of a, a powerful person or elected official or leader in California, I ask them the same question every time. And I haven't had a satisfactory answer. Like, why? Why does DA George Gascon want filth and people? And by the way, it's not compassionate to look at and step over people overdosing on the street. It's not nice. It's not, you don't feel humanity. How does that make your private plane experience better if you have to step over bodies to get to it? I'm all for like aiming for the good life. I would like to be there too. But it doesn't make it any better that you have a mansion behind gates when people are like it's, the line of the living dead out there.
No, it is. It's zombies out there. I have an episode of this show that I did on California homelessness because so many people think that we're just heartless. We're not heartless. Like, you don't understand how helpless it feels, which is another reason, Roxanne, why I suspect that you're taking up the mantle of this race, because it does feel helpless. You're not heartless. You're not stepping over those people because you want to. There's literally nothing you can do as a single citizen. And especially as a tiny woman, Roxanne is a tiny woman. As a tiny woman, you're not going to be helping up some person who is, it's not that they're evil. It's that they are infected with drugs that have changed their minds, changed their sanity, their rationale. These are people who can be found at any given moment, pooping in the street, masturbating in the street, having sex in the street, doing all kinds of stuff that would just shock you. You feel so helpless. We don't want to walk around these people.
And it makes you less compassionate, right?
Yes.
Because you're walking by this, you're driving by it usually with your kids.
Yeah.
And you're like, look over there. And every one of these people is someone's kid. Yes. And it breaks my heart when I see like the moms walking up and down the Tenderloin in San Francisco, like, have you seen this person? Have you seen this person? And it's all interconnected. Like people who want to say, well, climate change is the biggest issue. Okay, you want everyone out of their cars? Make public transportation safe. Because guess what? Gavin Newsom just announced today he'd like to make public transportation free for the next 3 months. Oh, does it come with a tetanus shot and an armed guard to go with you? Because pretty much that's the bare minimum you'd have to give me. There would have to be a cash payout, and it would have to be significant for me to even step foot, because and we all know, you can tell your mask doesn't work because you walk in and you can still smell the pee. So,
and it's not just that, but also then there's also the very inconvenient fact that the public transportation doesn't go everywhere you need it to go. It's not like in New York City or Chicago where you can get off. It's ridiculous. Sometimes it just ends and you don't know what bus to get on. Sometimes the buses don't go. They're scheduled to go, but they just don't show up. Sometimes the bus line gets rerouted and they never tell you. Like LA public transportation is just, it's almost non-existent. It's ridiculous. It was just ridiculous.
So when he said, I'm going to give you 3 months of free, I was like,
for what?
Oh, thanks. Here's a man who's in touch with the common people.
No doubt. Put his ass on the metro and see how he fares. My goodness. The LA, the supervisor's race, Roxanne, takes a lot of money to run. I mean, why are you doing this? This seems like an uphill battle.
This is a good question. I'm leaving. So here's why. Because if not me, then who? And the fact is that the three, 800-pound gorillas in the race, every one of them has been sucking from the government teat forever, for their entire careers. Bob Hertzberg did take a minute to go work for a solar panel company, and then immediately went back to the assembly and passed a law saying that every house has to have a solar panel on it.
Oh,
Isn't that a coincidence? We can rebuild it. $6 Million Man was one of my favorite shows. It is so, when I came to the States, it is so broken. So each of them will have $2 million. They can go up to 2.5 for this race. And there's going to be millions spent in independent expenditures. From, if you go to the, Bob Hertzberg for Supervisor, that endorsement page is a who's who, a tour, a guided tour of the grifters, the benefactors, the people who are just hoovering up all our money and resources and giving us nothing in return. It's really quite illuminating. Mine is people, parents, united for, Scott Pressler, who wants to clean up garbage all over the country, just regular people. My mom endorsed me. But the fact, it was dodgy there for a second. I had to work hard to get her vote. But it's important to do because someone's got to be in the conversation to say the emperor has no clothes. Your policies are stupid. Your plans are stupid. The things you are doing are not just pointless, they're making things worse. And this is where moms come in. Like you and I both, I brought you into this world. I can take you out. If everyone was jumping off the Empire State Building, would you? Those are the things that need to be said in these meetings, because here's what happens. Californians are so chill. We are so nice. We voted ourselves a tax increase in HHH. Like, let's spend $6.5 billion over 10 years on homelessness, because people are so nice about wanting to not be called racist that they're sacrificing their children. White liberals are literally sacrificing their own children on the altar of, oh my God, yes, they're horrible people who practically enslaved everyone. He's 7. What are you talking about, right? So everyone is so nice that nobody does the thing that needs to be done when the camel's nose starts to come in the tent. You got to hit that, smack that nose and get it out. I was at a neighborhood council meeting like 3 or 4 years ago. I went to see, and everybody's really polite. And this neighborhood council member is like, I'm just thinking like non-citizens should vote. But like, who are we to say that it should be citizens? And no one wanted, you could see sort of the confusion on the table, and nobody just said, Melinda, that's stupid. I mean, at some point you got to go, that's stupid. I'm not putting my pronouns in my signature. My name is Roxanne. You figure it out. Now, if my name was Hunter or Tyler, you're not quite sure, put a pronoun. But if your name is Bob or Roxanne, we can figure it out. So people have to mock, deride, belittle, and scoff when they see stupid stuff. Then that's my talent.
You are really good at it too. And I couldn't have put it any better myself. And so I think I'll just steal it. And that is what that's what
I stole it from someone else. Someone said it on
Great.
Twitter. We need to mock, deride, belittle, and scoff. And I said, that's the name of my law firm. If I had one, I play a lawyer on TV. And so mock, deride, belittle, and scoff. Can I help you?
Amen to that. Well, Roxanne, you have my endorsement and support, of course.
And you have mine.
Thank you. And I hope that that's significant to the voters because we both have very high hills to climb. I've got to go get my little one, which is why, well, she's not little. I guess we don't, it's so hard, Roxanne. They get older and they're
young.
We're like, oh, my babies, but we don't have babies anymore, but we keep calling them our babies. But anyways, you know how that goes. I've got to go get her, which is why you and I are running in the first place for our babies. But before I go, tell everybody where they can go to support you and what you need as support, and be specific.
Oh, I'm very specific. I need $1 million. Every bit counts. In Jamaica, we say every nickel makes a muckle. So everything, any pennies or dollar bill, whatever, you can send my way. And you can find me at www.superroxanne.com. So the word super and Roxanne is ROXANNE.com. There's a donate button there. Please hit it. Please hit the contact to let me know if you're in the area and you can, support or volunteer in any way. But even if you're not, spread and share on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram. And again, all those social sites are linked at superroxanne.com, because Kira and I are grassroots, sort of little engine that could, guerrilla candidates. It's possible to win. Look at the trucker who's in the assembly in New Jersey right now. We can do this, but it's going to take being nimble and getting a lot of eyeballs onto our campaigns. And thank you, Kira, for having me. Thank you for stepping up. And thank you to everybody out there who realizes that the path to save the United States of America comes through Southern California.
Amen. All right. Thanks, Roxanne.